Hello everybody, my name is Kyle69. Welcome back to another video. Today in this one I'll be doing another tier list video, and in this one I'll be doing it on board breakers post Age of Overlord. Age of Overlord looks like it completely just changed the meta, containing a bunch of new cards, and we actually got some results this past weekend as well at YCS Indianapolis. I'll put up the top 32 somewhere on screen right now, just going to kind of show you what the meta is looking like overall. Again, we're not going to really cover that portion, just for board breakers specifically. But again, these are the decks I'll most likely be talking about when I'm talking about the board breakers, so that just gives you an idea. So yeah, without further ado, let's get straight into the video, shall we? So first thing first, we're going to start off with Alpha, the Master of Beasts. I don't know, this is like niche. It's not bad, like this is a good card, but compared to what other board breakers are doing, it's not that great. It's not really that great. Like a Kaiju just does better, like Fenrir does better, or Pank does better, right? This is like the third best Pank type of effect right now. So like, I don't know, it's like niche. They're just better cards than what this card is trying to do. Next thing up are the book cards. So, Book of Eclipse and Book of Moon are probably going to be in most side decks. It's actually kind of weird that these used to be like main deck worthy cards have now moved to the side deck thanks to Arise Heart being banned, obviously. But they're still objectively strong cards to be playing in this format. Just a lot of people just moved it to the side deck because they just didn't feel like what they were. You didn't know how strong these cards were. I still think these can be in some main decks depending on the deck you're playing, right? But I still think the book cards are still ridiculously strong right now, but they're probably moved towards the side deck right now. And then the last book cards, Book of Lunar Eclipse, just don't. The Book of Moon, Book of Eclipse are just better cards. Just Book of Lunar Eclipse goes -2 just to Book of Moon cards, while these are just, you know, the -1s themselves. So I don't know, just don't. There's just better book cards than Book of Lunar Eclipse. Change of Heart. We'll probably put this in some side decks. Not probably every deck is probably playing this in their side deck, but there are probably some that are still playing it. Change of Heart is a strong card after all, just being able to change a heart anything to your side of the field. It's going to trade for a negation if they have a negation, but if they don't have a negation, because not that many decks are actually ending on omni-negates, you know, Change of Heart basically becomes this card where you can change a heart their field to kind of help break through their field, right? So Change of Heart's very good, but it is limited. You know, you do have cards like Thrust that can search this out, but I don't think everyone's going to be playing Change of Heart. Even though it's still a strong card, it's probably going to be in some side decks, not in all side decks. Next thing up here is Cosmic Cyclone. This is the best spell trap removal in the game, so this is probably going to be in most side decks. This is probably not a card that you want to main deck, but it is going to be in most side decks, right? Because Cosmic hits, not only does it hit the back row matchup like Labyrinth and stuff like that, but it also hits like the Runic matchup because the Hugin cannot protect against Cosmic. It can hit the Unchained matchup as well because it can hit the back row, the Escape, and they don't plus off of it. It also hits something like the Tier Limit matchup. You can target like a Solic or something like that. Not only does it get rid of the Solic, but then also doesn't plus them as well. So like, Cosmic is a very good card, and it's going to be in most people's side deck. It won't be main deck just because, again, it's not, you'd rather like main deck like Hand Traps or something like that, but it's probably going to be in most side decks. Dark Hole, it's alright. We'll probably put it in some side decks. I did see some people side decking like Dark Hole in their side decks. I don't think it's going to be in everyone's side deck. Like Dark Hole just doesn't feel that, like against like maybe like the Rescue matchup, being able to clear the monsters and just have to deal with the back row could be very nice. But against like Tier Limit or Unchained, or even like Purely, if they set up on the Noir, Dark Hole just doesn't feel that great. So this is going to be in some side decks, even though Dark Hole overall is a good card. Dark Ruler No More. This, I don't know, I can see some main decks playing Dark Ruler No More, depending on the deck you're playing. But this is probably going to be most side decks. Most side decks are probably playing the Dark Ruler No More. They're probably not going to be main decking the Dark Ruler No More just because Hand Traps and stuff like that are probably going to be taking up those main deck worthy slots. Again, board breakers are kind of those cards that you just side in when you know you're going second. So that's why they're in, most of them are going to be in the side decks and not main deck, unless you're like a very powerful one. But yeah, this is like, okay, this is like, it could be in some main decks. I can argue, you can argue for that, but I'm going to put it in most side decks. Dino Wrestle with Pankratops, again, is another card that will probably be in most side decks. It's a very good card. The only problem with it, it is limited right now. So, you know, you're not going to consistently see it, but pink is overall a very, very good card. Most people are probably going to be side decking the pink or tops. Very good card. Enemy controller. Wow, this is kind of weird because the first place Rescue Ace player got this in his main deck. So maybe this is worth playing again, like in the main deck, like in some main decks. This is weird. I don't know where to put this. I'm going to put it in most side decks. I still think it's, like, I can see why. No, we're going to put it in some main decks. We'll put it in some main decks. Because it being a quick play spell makes it where you can actually use it as a going first or going second tool. So it's very good. Again, first place player got first, thankfully, to this card as well. So yeah, some main decks are going to be playing enemy controller. So enemy controller back in format. Very, very nice to see. Evenly matched. This is probably going to be in most side decks as well. Evenly matched, absolutely a powerful card, especially if people aren't ending on like a spell trap negate or an omni negate, right? That's the whole reason why something like Rescue is playing like the firewall stuff, because they want to get on a spell trap negate so they just don't immediately die to something like evenly matched. So evenly matched, still a very, very good card. It's going to be in most side decks, absolutely for sure. This is only a going second card. It does nothing going first. Forbidden Chalice. I don't know. I think we're going to put this in some side decks. Just because, I don't know. It's like, it depends on the deck you're playing, right? Because, I don't know. I don't think Chalice is that great of a card. I think something like Infinite Impermanence is just doing what this card is doing, but better, right? Like Chalice, the only thing it has above Imperm is if you commit to the field, you can still activate Chalice, right? So, but again, this is probably just going to be in some side decks. I don't think it's going to be in most people's side decks. It could be going into niche as well, but we'll put it at the bottom of some side decks. Forbidden Droplet is actually going to go in some main decks. Not all main decks are playing Forbidden Droplet, but Droplet is moving back into the format, which is very nice for me to see because this is one of my favorite cards of all time. It's a very, very, very good card. Helps you break a board, especially if you're like a combo player. Like, if you're like tier limit, you're playing Droplet to send like the brick cards to your graveyard so you can activate those cards in the graveyard, something like Malicious and Trigger Karma and shit like that. So yeah, I can see some main decks absolutely playing Droplet. This can also be a side deck worthy option as well, but I have seen a lot of people playing Droplet in the main deck. Not all of them, so it's not going to go in most, but some main decks are playing Droplet as well. The Kaijus, again, this is just another side deck option. I think it's a very good side deck option. We'll put it like there, it's probably fine. We'll put like Dark Ruler there. Yeah, that's probably a good thing for that. Again, the Kaiju hits the Noir matchup, but it hits the Purely matchup, but it is very good against every matchup. Again, being able to Kaiju like something off the field to trade for like a negation and stuff like that is always going to be very nice. Kaijus, again, probably going to be in most people's side deck. Feather Duster, same thing. Like, yes, you can argue there are going to be some main deck as well, just because of something like Thrust here, which we'll talk about in just 1 second. But I think this is still going to be in most people's side decks. Yeah, some people are going to be playing it main deck, but I still see this as a side deck option, not as a main deck option. Not only because it's not worth main decking unless you are playing the Thrust itself. If you're not playing the Thrust, then you're probably going to be side decking the Feather Duster instead. So yeah, we'll put it there. Same thing with the Herald of the Abyss. Again, it's just a side deck option thanks to something like Thrust being legal, right? So you could argue some people are main decking this, but it's just, I think it's more just a side deck option in this case as well. Hits the Purely matchup, hits any matchup pretty much as well, as long as they end on like different stuff. Very good card, but side deck. Castria Fenrir is interesting, right? I think this absolutely goes in some main decks. Like Fenrir is still an absolutely insane card. Like going first, it's just a guy that you can just special for free, get another Fenrir for like free discard fodder, and it acts as interruption during your opponent's turn as well. Going second, it's a going second card as well. Castria Fenrir, very, very good card. It's going to be in some main decks, absolutely for sure. The Divine Incarnate Kurikara. I don't know. This feels like it's falling off. It feels like it's falling off a lot. I feel like this is gonna be like some side decks. I don't feel like it's gonna be in a lot of side decks, but in some side decks, I can see Kurikara being in there. It just doesn't feel that great anymore, especially something like a Rise Heart being banned now. Like that's kind of the reason why Kurikara was good, because Rise Heart was a mandatory trigger. Same thing with like the Noir, if they trigger their effects, Kurikara could just like boop onto the field, right? But I don't know, this just feels like it's okay at best. I don't know, it goes in some side decks. Lava Golem is kind of the same thing. Like, I think a Kaiju is just better. So we'll put it in some side decks, like probably like Labyrinth is probably playing this in their side decks and shit like that. But yeah, I feel like this goes into some side decks, not into all side decks. Lightning Storm, this is kind of the same thing as Feather Duster, so we'll put it in most side decks. Again, it's a very good card. It's basically acts as the same thing as Feather Duster. Very, very good card to be playing. But I don't see people main decking this just because it does nothing going first. So yeah, it's going to be in most people's side decks. Marionette Might. I want to put this in just don't. I honestly, because it only hits one matchup, and that is the Unchained matchup. And even that, Unchained isn't that popular anymore. It's really the rescue stuff that's gaining the popularity, right? So yeah, this just doesn't do that much anymore. I think you just don't play it. Honestly, I just think you just don't play it. I don't think it's that good of a card. Mind Control is, I don't know. Change of Heart's legal, so it's like niche. Like, this is a worse Change of Heart, so I think it's niche. Like, if Triple Tactic Thrust didn't exist, maybe it goes into some side decks. But since Thrust exists with Change of Heart, I don't think Mind Control is that good. So I think it just goes into niche. Regeki is the same thing as Dark Hole, so we'll put it right there. But I think it's a little bit worse than Dark Hole, because depending on the matchup, if you're playing Unchained, at least Dark Hole can maybe trigger your guys, while Regeki can't do that. But, you know, the same argument as Dark Hole can be applied to Regeki as well. So we'll put it in some side decks. Santa Claus is like niche. Like the only deck that's gonna be playing Santa Claus is exactly purely. I think a Kaiju just does better. I think Kaiju just does way more. Like these are basically the same as the Kaiju and the Santa Claus, right? But there's more Kaijus in the game, and Santa Claus only has one. The only advantage of Santa Claus is it can be set in defense position, unlike the Kaijus. And that's it. That's really it. I don't think it's that great. Like, not that many people are. If you're going to be side decking something like this, it's going to be the Kaiju that you're going to side deck, not the Santa Claus, right? So that's how I see that as an argument. Super Poly. I see this in some side decks. I don't think it's in most side decks, but I can see this being in some side decks. I think it's the bottom of this. Yeah, because Super Poly overall is a fucking insane card, right? Like, there was a Sprite Tri-Brigade player that topped playing Super Poly main deck, right? And you don't think they'll Super Poly main deck, right? Because, like, what are we going to do with all these links, right? He just threw two, like, Mud Dragon and Garua, and just threw in Super Poly. Why not? Because Super Poly is a dumb fucking card. It's a really dumb card. It's a card that shouldn't exist, but it is legal. So, yeah, this belongs in some main decks. But you can also see it in side decks as well. But you see some people main decking Super Poly as well. Thrust. Thrust is in a weird spot. So this is the card I've been kind of mentioning. So Thrust makes it where any spell trap is searchable going second. So, like, this feels weird. So, like, some people are main decking this card, but a lot of people are also side decking this card as well. So this just feels weird. I'm going to put it in some main decks because obviously there are main deck guys that are playing this, but I can go for either or. It's in most side decks. It's in some main decks as well. So it's like it's a very good card overall, but like its targets for it, I'm not going to put it in some main decks. I'm going to put it in side decks. So if you are a Thrust target and only being played because you are a Thrust target, I'm going to put you in side deck most likely just because it's really the Thrust that's getting main decked, right? So obviously Thrust is a good card, deserves to be here. Talents. This is the only board breaker I think that belongs in most main decks. Talents is such an insane card. So fucking good how good this card is. Sure, it's a Thrust target, but you could just play Talents by itself and it's still main deck worthy. It's such a dumb card that, again, probably shouldn't exist, but it does exist and it's fucking insane. Deserves to be in most main decks. Twin Twister, this is like, it's at niche now. Like, this only hits the back row matchups, unlike Cosmic, where it can hit other matchups as well, as like the Tearlament, the Unchained, and the Runic stuff. Twin Twister can't, because if they try to Twin Twister the Runic Fountain, they have Hugin to protect. If you Twin Twister like the Unchained player, right, they're just going to plus off their spell trap getting destroyed. Same thing with Tearlament as well. So like, this just feels like it's niche. I feel like Cosmic is just the better one, especially with like Feather Duster and Thrust existing as well. This is just falling off, especially since you have to discard a card for this as well. Twin Twister is just kind of falling off. Ultimate Slayer, it's niche. It's niche. It's okay. Like, it's okay. It's not that great. It's not that great. It's cool, but it's not that great. Sphere Mode, it's like the same thing as Golem and Lava. It's like the same thing as Golem and the Kurikaria, but I think it's worse, so I'm going to put it in niche. Just because this needs 3 monsters to tribute, and it wastes your normal summon. Like, cool, it's going to be nice if it gets it off, but like, I don't think it's that great of a card. So, yeah, we're going to keep that as that. We're going to keep that as that. And the last card here is XYZ Encore. We'll put this in some side decks. It's only there for the purely matchup and really nothing else. So I think a Kaiju just does better in that slot. But some people are side decking this card. I'm actually going to put this in niche. It's like, okay. It's okay. So yeah, that is my tier list. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe for more content on the channel. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.